I started my career as an IT consultant. I was working in IT for almost 6 years. I was 43 kilos and I'm 5'10". That was way too skinny. I was always bullied for that. I had to try many things. Nothing seemed to work. I'm a certified fitness coach. I've coached over 4,000 people across the globe.
Why should people actually exercise?
Exercise doesn't help you that much in order to lose fat because consistency always beats perfection.
So can you talk about a few things that didn't work out?
Very common things that did not work out was searching for.
India is a nation of walkers. So people just go to the gym, they walk on a treadmill for 1 hour and then they go back home.
The basics are important, and it's very important to understand that a lot of people would start with something extremely tough. That never works because if they are a complete beginner, then obviously mindset is everything. Because
How can people find time to exercise?
what time do you wake up? What time do you sleep? What all things do you do? How much time you spend in these things? Looking at that data will help you.
Hello and welcome to the Compounding Project podcast, where we talk about taking small steps to become healthy, wealthy, and wise. I'm your host Satish Kachula, and this episode is all about health, especially exercise. Our guest today is Nadir Siddiquee, who is joining us from Gurgaon, India. Nadir is a certified online fitness coach, educator, and co-author of some renowned fitness courses. He coached over 4,000 people across the globe in the past 10 years. His mission is to make fitness accessible to everyone. He'll be sharing the tools, strategies, and tips to lose fat, build muscle, and keep it sustainable. With that, Nadir, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, Satish. Thanks for having me here. I'm excited for this.
Sure. Same as well. So I've been going through the Instagram page, basically researching about this episode, and then I found a lot of interesting things about, especially exercise. So what I found is your advice is mostly like simple and actionable. So I want to dig deeper into your exercise habits and routines. But before that, like, can you talk about like who you are and what you do?
Okay, so like you said, I'm a certified fitness coach. Uh, but I was not always a fitness coach. I started my career as an IT consultant. I was working in IT for almost 6 years before I got into fitness. So back then in 2015, we started a community called Squads. Back then it was a group of people on WhatsApp. We moved to Facebook. I was helping build that, and then that company now is known as Fitter. So
Yes, sir.
being an initial member, and then from there I started coaching people. My first official client was in December 2015, and since then I've coached over 4,000 people across the globe. I have mostly coached online. There was a brief time I had a studio, but then COVID happened, and then we had to stop that. But my interest is has been more into getting more and more awareness about exercise nutrition, but I find much more interest in exercise mechanics, which is what I am focusing mostly on. But I coach people on both nutrition training for different goals: gen pop, normal fat loss, contest prep, photo shoots, a variety of clientele I have got. So yes, that's my uh, thing that I do.
Okay, I mean, yeah, there is so much to unpack here. You said you mentioned exercise mechanics, and this episode I want to focus more on exercise, but I want to talk more about your backstory, because so were you always into fitness growing up, or was there any specific incident that forced you into fitness?
So if you go through my Instagram, you will see some kind of transformation that I've gone through. When I started my fitness journey in 2009, 2010, I was 43 kilos and I'm 5'10", by the way. So that was way too skinny. I've always been skinny throughout my teenage, all the major part of my life. I was a very skinny kid. So I was always bullied for that. and I wanted to work on my health and fitness, and I had to try many things. So there were no coaches available back then. Yes, there were personal trainers available in the gyms, but then again, those random advices all the time, and nothing seemed to work. Then I moved to reading magazines, the health magazines and stuff like that. Started applying things on myself. Again, did not work. And then there back then it was like bodybuilding.com was had a community, had people writing articles. So I started reading that, and that worked to an extent. But then also there were a lot of mix and match. That was something was working, something was, and then I decided no, this is too much of experimentation. Let me take things in my hand, and that's when I started studying more about fitness and nutrition. Back then, 2015, 2016, when I started studying, I thought I know a lot, and that's where I was wrong, honestly. The more and more we grow as a coach, the more and more we learn, because there is a theory part to learnings, and then there is an application part to that learning. Not the theory is right, but how you apply it will always vary. So, as a coach, that's what I improving every day, every week, every month. And that's what my focus is. So I never started as a fitness guy, but ended up becoming someone who is fit, walks the talk, and helps people achieve it.
You tried different things and that didn't work out. So what are a few things that come up in your mind, because I think this would help a lot of people because they might have been going through your same journey as well. So can you talk about a few things that didn't work out?
Very common things that did not work out was searching for how to build muscles in 6 weeks time, 8 weeks. What meal replacement shakes should we take? What diet should we follow to get there? And what should be the food items that I should eat? And these things don't work. They are generalized instructions, and nobody builds muscle that fast unless you are on PEDs, of course. So naturally, if you have to do it, it's the long way. There is no shortcut to this. The basics are important, and it's very important to understand that what works for me might not work for you, mostly might not work for you. Yes, the physiology, the application, the theory behind, the concept behind is the same. You be on a maintenance slight surplus and resistance train to build muscles, you be on a calorie deficit to lose fat. But how to apply on yourself has to consider your lifestyle, the feasibility, the time that you have. All of these factors, these are very important. And nobody can write about it without talking to you, without understanding you. So when I deal with my clients, I need to understand what their lifestyle is, what they can do at best. So my thought process is that there is no common optimal thing for everyone. What is optimal for me might not be optimal for you. We need to decide what is the best thing that you can do right now, which might not be very optimal on papers, but that works because you can improve on that. You can do that more regularly. You can be more consistent about it because consistency always beats perfection, right? So that's something that I always believe and preach.
There are so many nuggets in what you just said. So you mentioned consistency. You also mentioned quick results. So I want to dig deeper into these two concepts because I feel like the mindset is very important when it comes to exercise. So so can you talk about the importance of mindset in exercise for some time?
See, of course, I mean, mindset is everything because why we do something is very important. The why behind a goal is very important because a lot of people start with motivation. They watch a video, they get motivated. They watch a movie, they get motivated. They watch a transformation story, they get motivated. But that fades out pretty quick, right?
Yeah, 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 yeah.
Because they don't know why they want to transform. Of course, they want to look. Of course, they want praises and comments and likes and all of that because social media, right? But why am I doing it? That has to be important because that's going to be an anchor point. The day motivation goes down, if you remember why you started and why you are doing this, that will keep you going on. So, for example, if we sometimes most people work they don't like all of the days of their work. They might love the job, they might not love the job, but they still keep going on. What helps them keep going on? Because they know if they don't work, the bread and butter is not going to come. If they don't work, they are not going to grow in their career.
Yeah.
So sometimes you do things that you don't like. Sometimes you do things even if you don't want to. Some office if you don't want to, right? We do that with work because we know, okay, this is important. If I don't do this, I'm not going to get anything out of this thing. I'm not going to grow. But when it comes to fitness, it becomes very important to ignore stuffs because there is no such goal which is stopping you from doing something. So it will be like, okay, if I don't miss, if I just miss the gym today, it's going to be fine. If I just eat out one bite, it's going to be fine because there's no end goal in mind. We are doing it because we just saw somebody doing it, or somebody just said that, oh, you look fat, oh, you look skinny, and that's why I'm doing it. No, that if that is the reason, it will never sustain. You have to find that why can be anything. Why can be looking great shirtless? Why can be attending a beach party? Why could be a vacation? Why could be being able to run with your kids, being able to play with them? Why could be anything, but you have to find that why. So mindset becomes very important. And again, coming to the same point, a lot of people work out for the reason of exhausting, burning calories, and which is why it doesn't work out because the job of a workout is not that. Of course, it burns calories. Of course, even me talking to you and moving my hands is burning calories, but I'm not doing that because of that. I'm doing that because it's how it is. So we have to exercise for the better reason why we are doing it. Is it building strength? Is it building muscles? Is it joint health? Is it muscle health? What is it? Cardiovascular endurance? That should be the goal behind exercise. And that's when you have that goal in mind, then you don't skip it because today morning you did not see any progress in your weighing scale. So you would end up, you decide that, oh, let me just stop doing everything because that was the reason why I'm doing an exercise. So, and then again, you have to think from a perspective that how can I make it a part of my lifestyle? Right? A lot of people
Mhm.
would start with something extremely tough. So it's like day and night difference between what they are today and what they decide to do tomorrow. It's like it's completely different thing, completely different diet, completely different terms, completely different exercise, pushing them to their limits. They have never worked out and they want to go all hard, all the way in. That never works because it's not going to sustain. It's going to put them back. It's going to bite back, right? So we have to think from a perspective, and mindset matters the most in this scenario. If that is not set correct, everything is going to fall apart eventually.
Yeah, you touched upon a couple important things. I believe, like, you talked about why, and I strongly believe in having a why, because I feel like, if you have a why, you can figure out the what, and you can figure out the how. Because let's say if you tell somebody to do something, and then if you don't give them a why, they might do it now, but they just don't keep doing that, consistently. So having a why, if they know the importance of exercise, then they'll figure out how to exercise and also like what exercises to do. You just brushed through some important benefits of exercise, but I want you to talk more about it. So why should people actually exercise? What are the benefits of exercise, and then we'll figure out how and what later. But we want to know, like, why should people exercise?
Okay, so a lot of people would exercise for fat loss. That's the most common reason why people do exercise for fat loss. So, which is why they would keep searching for things like which is the best exercise for losing belly fat. It's 2024 honestly, but still people are still searching for that, and I think it's still one of the searched thing on the internet.
Yeah.
The best exercise for losing belly fat, but exercise doesn't really help you that much in order to lose fat because the amount of contribution an exercise has in terms of energy expenditure, it's very low. It's around 5 to 15, 10, 15% if you are working out that intensive like an athlete. But I'm assuming most of the audience who are listening to this or are following me on Instagram are not those kind of population, because me being a fitness coach, if I am able to work out 2 hours in a day, that's the best workout session in the week.
Yeah.
I don't
Yeah.
have that much time. Literally figuring out 90 minutes because I have obviously a different goal. Even if I get 90-minute session, that's great. But a lot of people would just assume that, oh, he's a fitness coach. He must be living in the gym. He must be eating out of the gym. Everything happens in the gym, around the gym. The entire lifestyle is gym,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
No, it's
Yeah.
not
Yeah.
true because I'm into an online consulting job. I have a desk job. Literally, I talk to people sitting on a system like I'm talking to you right now. So I am not an active person. I have a very sedentary lifestyle. I consult so many people day in, day out. I work. I mean, back in those days when I was in IT, I used to work 12 hours. Now I work 15 hours because I have to consult people, I have to write programs, I have to study to make sure that I'm studying more and more and more. But that brings us to the point that okay, why we are working out has to be very clear in our mind. What do we want to achieve out of it? Do we want to play a sport, which is why we are training? Do I want to run a marathon, which is why I'm training? Do I want to improve my cardiovascular endurance, which is why I'm working out? Or do I want to just look good naked, which is why I'm working out? So when we think about all of those things, we just need to think about okay, when we do an exercise, what is happening? Whenever I'm doing a movement, my joints are moving and each joint has their own range of motion, their degree of freedom, all of that. So I need to understand that, okay, even if I am doing something like a Zumba and I'm jumping, and if I am carrying more weight than usual, then what is happening at my knee joint? What is happening at my ankle joint? So I need to understand from that perspective that, okay, no matter what modality of training I do, I am going to use my joints. And what manages the joint? Muscles. So if I am talking about joint health, the thing that manages it directly is muscle. And if I am not doing anything to build this muscle, which as usual with age we lose muscle, if we are losing that muscle, we are losing that joint health, we are losing that joint's capability to do stuff. So we need to make sure that when no matter the modality, one thing that has to be a core foundation of the overall training aspect is resistance training. Do any form of resistance training, the form that you like, be it calisthenics, be it yoga, be it with weights. But there has to be a resistance training which is custom made for you, which you can do based on your available range of motion, with your tolerance level, your allowance, what your joint level allows. So that is very crucial to identify and then make it progressive. That is the core. So once you fix this, you can start working on that because my heart is here. I can't work on this without doing something with my limbs or my body. So if I have to do that, I need to use joints. If I have to use my joints, I need to use muscles. So I need to make sure that no matter my preferences of training, there has to be at least some amount of resistance training so that you are building that foundation for your entire training program.
It's good you mentioned bone health. So what is it is in my family? I figured out. I get this statements, right? They're suffering from weak bones and they're suffering from weak joints. And what they started doing is they just started walking. Like I've been telling them to strength train, but they just increase the amount of walking that they do. But what you said makes perfect sense. Muscle, it surrounds the bone, right? And if you're strengthening your muscle, your bones are getting stronger, which is actually making your both bone health good, and then also your muscles. There is so many benefits of strengthening which we'll get into, but now we have just covered our why. So we should first, the step one when it comes to fitness or when it comes to exercise, is to figure out the why. So now we have covered out the why, and I want to talk about what to do when it comes to exercise, because the major, at least I've been listening to a podcast where this person was talking about like walking. He was saying that especially in many countries, but especially in India, people walk a lot. India is a nation of walkers, but we totally underestimate the power of strength training. So can you talk about walking and also like strength training, like what's wrong with this approach? That I've seen this myself. I've seen in gyms, like people just go to the gym, they walk on a treadmill for 1 hour and then they go back home, right? And then so what's the problem with this approach, or what could be the optimal one?
So I think a lot of people Walking is not a problem. Walking is great. Walking keeps you more active.
Mhm.
Because we are in a lifestyle right now wherein we are more sedentary. We are not hunters and gatherers anymore. So obviously we are more sedentary. We have a desk job. So walking from that perspective is really great because movement is one of the pillars of health, right? Motion.
Yep. Yep.
So if
Mhm.
that is one of the pillars of health, then yes, walking is very good. But does it solve all the problem? I see a lot of elderly people or people who are even middle aged. They if they have 1 hour of time, they would end up going for a walk, which is fine. But in my opinion, if you have 1 hour in a day to do something, I would prefer to do 3 days of strength sessions, and then the remaining days you can walk, you can play a sport, whatever you want to do. Because walking is also a form of resistance training wherein you're dealing with forces, friction, gravity, all of that, right? But so the joints are working to an extent, the muscles are working to an extent, but it's not training your entire body. If you need to have more custom fit training for all the other joints as well. So there has to be some amount of resistance training, which is not just walking, right? You need to work on certain muscle groups which are not covered just by walking as much. So we need to work on those. We need to improve those. So we need to think from an overall perspective and not just looking at the entire movement. Okay, if I am moving, I'm doing a full body movement, that's done. No. So when we talk about walking, we are talking about, okay, we are thinking from a perspective, okay, this is the movement, or I'm doing a squat, so I'm doing a full body movement. So something like that. So we are so much focused on the entire body moving and not thinking about, okay, what is making that move, what all things are making it move. So for example, I'll give you an example of orchestra. There are different musicians playing different equipments, different things, different notes, right? But when you listen as a audience, as a listener, you listen to, and the
Mhm.
music comes from that mix of different stuffs coming in. If there is a something that you feel is not very good in that music, it's because one of the players in the orchestra is not doing the job properly, right? That's what happens when it comes to the entire body's movement. We need to think from every joint perspective, and whichever muscles help them move these joints, we need to make sure that your training covers it. Okay, so we don't need to necessarily get into very details of it, but at least the major joints, if you work them regularly, if you are training them, if you are adding some form of resistance training for them, that should take care. That's why I said, even if you're place, if you don't have 3 days, just work out 2 days. But work out, if you have 10 minutes in a day to work out, just do it. Just pick a muscle group and just train. Like I said, optimal comes later. First, build something that you can follow and be consistent with, and that itself brings in so much change.
So many misconceptions when it comes to what is the optimal workout, like, what is the optimal movement, what is the best exercise and stuff. So let's say we'll focus more on the strength training part. So how can, like, somebody who wants to start their strength training journey, where can they start? What's the first step they have to take?
Right. So first step is assessment, of course. What can they do? What can they own? What can they tolerate? Right. So this is something that I learned from RTS PT project. They have been my mentors. I've been learning from them a lot. So the thing is, one, figure out who are we, who is the client, what do they have, what do they have access to, what range of motion is available to them for each joint. It's not like, okay, this is the range that I have for squat. No, not that. What range do you have for knee? What range do you have for your ankle? What range do you have for your shoulders? What range do you have for your hip? Assess that and then see what can you do in those, and you are able to tolerate it. Sometimes we think that, okay, we have this range from complete flexion range till here, but what if I load it up, I don't have it, I can't own it. So I have this small range that I can work. And then when I load it with minimal load, of course, initially, then I need to see what is my tolerance level. Can I tolerate that? Right? And tolerance will not be revealed in that session. It might reveal tomorrow. okay, I get some niggles if I do this. And I did not get it today, but I need to reassess things that what worked. And based on that, we do more slowly, steadily, and we progress from there. Which brings us to the topic of resistance training. Resistance training is important. Now, a lot of people fight over which is best, gym based,
Yeah.
calisthenics, yoga. What people
Mhm.
fail to understand that each of these modality that I spoke about, they all are forms of resistance training. There is a resistance that we are fighting. So instead of dumbbell, you are picking your own body weight. So how is it different? That's a weight too. Okay, if I'm
True.
lifting a part of my body weight and I'm saying, oh, calisthenics is better than resistance training. Or if I'm lifting dumbbells and I'm saying, oh, weight training is better than calisthenics. But if you look at it,
True.
if you're doing a push up or if you're doing a pull up, you're trying to lift your entire body up or you're trying to push your body through the ground. Okay, so
Mhm.
to every action there is an equal and opposite reaction, not Newton's third law of motion. You can't push if that there is no contact surface there, right? So you have to push. That's resistance. If you put two weighing scale, you will see a certain amount of resistance. And then people will think, oh, you are not able to do a push-up, so you must not be fit. But if they are 2 kgs on a chest press, they most probably will not be able to do a push-up, right? So there
Yeah,
has to
yeah.
be a progression. So where you start, you pick something wherein you can micro load. So what do I mean by micro load is basically how can I make small improvements. So I feel gym based training allows you that. With anything else, it's either the entire body weight or a part of body. I can't pick 1 kg, 2 kg, 3 kg, 5 kg, 10 kg. I either deal with the entire body weight or I deal with a half of the body weight or I deal with a quarter of the body weight, but I cannot micro load them. So that makes it difficult to progress. And a lot of people, lot of general population people would find it very intimidating as well. And they would think that they are not strong enough. Nobody is strong enough on day one. But if you build that with tools that can help you micro load and improve minute bits, then you have something that can train you to get there eventually. So that is why my personal preference is always that okay, you no matter what you do, what you want to do that because you enjoy it, and if you enjoy it, you'll sustain it. But make sure that you are doing something with proper normal weights so that you can micro load and make adjustments easily.
Yeah, I think there is something that I heard recently about methods and principles, because basically when you said resistance training, right? So the principle is the same, but the methods could be different. There are let's say you mentioned like three different methods, right? It can be like calisthenics, right? It can be yoga also, like some form of resistance, and it can be of course like lifting weights. So these are three different methods, but the principle is the same behind it, like resistance training. So I feel like people should not get into this analysis paralysis of which method is good. Like these methods are good as long as you keep sticking to the principle. So now let's say I want to talk more about the weightlifting part, because that's where I feel people have the most, like the most inexperience or the most misconceptions when it comes to weightlifting, or maybe we can include body weight movements there as well. So let's say if somebody, he said the first step is to start take the assessment. Let's say if their body is supporting to do the basic movements, and then so let's say they step into the gym. So how can this start, like what exercises to do, how can they come up with this workout plan? Let's say if the person happens to be a person, let's say he has time to work out 3 times per week and for 45 minutes per session, let's say. So how what's the first step then?
Okay, so if a person has 3 days in a week that he can work out, and that's just 45-minute session. So obviously the time crunch is there. And whenever we are talking about a workout and the person is new to workout, so what do we think of? We think about strength. We think about that person's ability to do stuffs. Then we think about skill set. Every movement that you do is a skill set. It's like if you're doing a pushing movement, it's a skill set. How you do a chest press, how you do an incline chest press, how you do a rowing, how you do a pull down. All of these are skill sets. The biggest mistake people do is they would get on sessions which vary too much. So they would do something today and they would do something very different tomorrow, and they would do something very different on day three. and then next week they again change it to something else. Exercises are changing. So the problem is you're adding way too many skills to acquire. It's like one day you want to learn how to skate, one day you want to learn how to wakeboard, and the other day you want to learn something. It is going to extend the timeline that you spend in learning those things. So you need to think, okay, what can I do for push? What can I do for pull? What can I do for lower body push? What can I do for a lower body pull? If you focus on these four and then you maybe add some core exercises where you are doing something with your muscles that manage your spine, something which leads to a spinal flexion, spinal extension, spinal rotation, that would be a great addition, but it's not necessary. We can use certain exercises which has the dependency on managing your core as well. And then of course there are arm workout, there are accessory movement that you can do, but if you have a time crunch, I would go for a full body. I would repeat certain movements so that the skill set acquisition is faster. The more frequently you do a certain movement, the faster you acquire it. We can add variety later, but also I would keep something where the client enjoys it. Like, okay, they want to do an ab finisher, they want to do an arm finisher. If it's a lady, they want something as a glute finisher. Put that in because they enjoy it. They will look up to the next session, right? So you have to think, okay, what is the core thing that needs to be done, and what is something that they enjoy by the end and feel good about it and look forward to the next session. Also, look at how much are they pushing. If they are completely new, you don't want them to go exhausted and wake up next day completely sore, having pain in even muscle groups that they never thought existed. That's not going to help them get back into the gym again. So as a coach, I need to think, okay, what can I do so that it serves the purpose, makes them feel good, and also they are able to recover out of it so that we can keep progressing in that. So ideally, I would be like, if it is a beginner, I would be like full body, full body, full body. If not, then I would give like upper body, lower body, and a full body, and some rest in between wherein they can work on other things that they like, maybe just go on a walk, maybe do some low intensity cardio, anything that is there that they can tolerate. So that would be my approach of coaching them.
Good. Yeah, I want this to be like more, simple and also actionable as well. So I want to start with the beginner. So so when I first started my fitness journey, so this was how I used to go. Like when I go to the gym, I used to go to the equipment that was available, right? If I saw somebody doing it, I would just, once he's done, I'll just do the same exercise. So I didn't have a plan, because at that time I didn't know what like push pull leg split was, and a lot of other stuff. So I want to focus on this beginner, and then we'll focus on the person who has been doing it for 3 years and not seeing the results. So for this beginner, and 3 days per week and 45-minute sessions. So you mentioned push pull legs, right? So like, can you and also like you don't recommend switching between multiple movements every week. So it's just that like if you're trying to learn too many things, at the end up you might end up not enjoying it and not seeing the progress, and then giving it up. So let's say on these days, Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, and 45-minute sessions. Can you talk about like few basic exercises that you would recommend people do, 4 to 5 basic ones, and then maybe for a three month, let's keep that as a target. And what would you recommend for a beginner?
So a beginner, if they are a complete beginner, then obviously they have very low skill set. They can't manage things much, right? So I would keep it very simple. And machines here could be really, really helpful. Like if I'm using machines, the thing with machines is that they have a fixed path of motion. They are not going to move in any other direction. We don't have to work on stability because it's more stable. So that would be my first preference. But there is also a limitation with machines that not every machine fits your structure. So if you're too big, if you're too small, if you're wider, if you're narrower, the machines might not fit. So first that analysis needs to be done. So that would be more custom fit. But if I have to give you certain examples, something like I said, if it is a full body session, so I divide into something that is pushing on my upper body. So something like a chest press, it could be a dumbbell chest press, it could be a machine chest press. That is done. That takes care of your chest, that takes care of your delts, that takes care of your triceps. Now, if I have to do a rowing movement, I would start with a horizontal pull because a lot of people would not have this range to pull down from here. So if they have the range, it's fine. But most people have slouched shoulders and they're not able to raise it much. So I'll start with a horizontal pull because that works most of my major back muscles. So that's sorted. And when I'm doing a push and pull, I'm also working my arms. So while I'm doing a push, I'm working my triceps, and I'm pulling, rowing movement, I'm using my arms, elbow flexors like biceps, all of those muscles there. Then I look at my lower body. Okay, what can I do for a push? Can, can I do something which extends my knee, like a leg extension machine, as simple as that? Or I get on a seated leg press and do some leg pressing, or maybe just do some goblet squats, some box squats. What can I do the best for pushing on lower body? I'm pushing on it. So that takes care of my quads, that takes care of my glutes. And then what can I do for my uh, posterior chain, my hamstrings, right? Something which extends my hips. So a lot of people would struggle with hip extension movement, like stiff leg deadlift or something like that. So I'd start very slowly with them that, okay, let's teach them how to extend their hips. So something with a glute bridge to start with floor, and then you get on a hyper extension machine, and then you get on a stiff leg to have that progression set for yourself. And other than that, something more isolation, like what can you do more like that focuses mainly on your hamstrings and calves, something like a seated leg curl. So these are very very basic
Basics.
movements, and because you are using some machines, it is very difficult to go wrong with it. It's easier to understand and it's easier to change the load. Even if the range is short, it's fine. Eventually if the range has to go up, it will improve. So these things, and then you put in the finishers, like, okay, if you want to do a bicep curl, you want to do a tricep extension, you want to do some ab crunches, you want to do some hyper extension wherein you're training your extensors as well. Uh, Simple. And you can start if you're not able to do crunches, if you're not doing, maybe you start with a knee plank or a partial plank wherein you're not doing the entire full body plank, because a lot of people who are overweight might not be able to do a full body plank, because it's like if you're standing on that and then the the ground is pushing the same amount of weight on you, so it's not easy, right? It might feel easy for me, it might feel easy for you, but uh, ask a 120 kg guy doing it, it's not going to be easy for them. So you need to start understanding, like, okay, what as an individual, what can I do, what can I manage to do, and how can I work all the muscle groups in a very short period of time and repeat it for a while, keep it the same across the 3 days for a while, and then maybe start adding few stuffs once you have that base load. Maybe month one you do the same prep frequency, the 3 days, same set of exercises 3 days a week with gaps in between, so you recover. And then second month we start adding few stuffs. We start adding things like, okay, if you're doing rowing now, let's start doing a pull down movement. Let's see if I'm able to do. Let's start doing an incline chest press. Let's start doing an overhead press. Let's start doing some lateral raises. But these things come later, and there is no rule, as in it's not like we cannot do that on day one. But I'm thinking from a perspective that what can I do with limited movements and get maximum results out of it. So I pick exercises which trains major muscles, so that I don't have to pick on each individual muscle and bring an exercise for it, because then that will add more and more skill set acquisition requirement on people, and then that will make the overall learning thing very slow. Plus it will put so much recovery demand on your body as well. So you want to keep it short, simple, and repeat it till you get the hang of it, and then you start adding stuff on top of that.
Okay. Yep. That's powerful right there. You mentioned this 8 to 10 exercises. I think it's just that we focus too much on what is the best exercise, but these are these basic movements that it's just that we have to master these 8 to 10 movements, and we are good. Like, as a beginner, right?
Yes.
I mean, there is so much because I think it's the social media that does it. I mean, I can't blame people. It's just a social media that just they just always talk about this new training plan, new exercises, 6 packs in 6 weeks, right? So and then they, because if you really boil down there, it's all the fundamentals. Like if you master the fundamentals, we'll see progress, and be consistent with it, then we will see progress. So yeah, I don't want this to be overwhelming for people, so I just want to summarize what you just said. So watch videos and see how to do these movements. And then also, like you, when you said machines, because initially when I first started my fitness journey, I thought machines were, for somebody, for old people, right? Because, but actually when I did some research, it says, as machines are good for beginners because it prevents injury, right? Because like you said, the range of motion is fixed, so it's very unlikely that you might get hurt. So for a beginner, that's actually a great way to start. So I think these are very good for a beginner, I believe. Just to summarize what I said, very very good for beginner to get started. So one thing I just want to cover before we go to the last segment, we can touch upon an advanced or a medium to advanced person later. I just want to focus on the beginner. So what is the I mean, this might be controversial, but what is the optimal sets or reps range, right? No, we know what exercises to do, but how much to do, like what how much, and what the sets and rep range? Can you talk for a beginner?
So when it comes to sets and repetitions, it for a beginner it really doesn't matter. What matters is quality. Okay. So
Okay.
the quality, how much time do they have? If they have like 40 minutes and I have like multiple exercises to cover. So it will include some form of warm up, then the actual training, and then some form of talking about how did the session go, all of that. Okay. So if I'm in a session, that's how I would plan. So I would think about how can I make the execution as good as possible for that person, because execution is key. The amount of work that they do is irrelevant at this point of time. If they are not executing it right, all that work they are doing is just junk and garbage, right? And the more they do it incorrectly, the further dangerous it becomes for them. So when it comes to somebody starting off exercise, the focus should be on control. Something that I learned is a start and stop game. So when we were kids, we used to play, okay, if I say stop, you would stop there, right? So something like that, wherein, okay, if I'm doing a pressing movement, how can I make it more controlled so that I'm able to understand, okay, this is how it moves, this is how it comes down, rather than doing this, right?
Fast.
So
Okay.
instead
Yeah.
of doing all those jerky movements and all high momentum based movement wherein we are doing it too fast. No, that's not the goal, because that's what we think about. Of if you're doing a boot camp, then we are thinking about, oh, I need to do this circuit. I need to finish it off in 2 minutes time. So I'll do it quick. That is not helping me at this point of time. I need to learn how to execute that movement first. And once I have enough experience doing that movement, then maybe I can do it a little fast. But when I'm starting, I have to think about, okay, what is the rep range that is not too high or too low? So if I do like 5-6 reps, then obviously the weight is going to be very heavy. So I would personally not recommend to a beginner. If I have to do 20-25 reps, then that's too many reps. The beginner's lung capacity would not be as good. So they would fail because of exhaustion, not because their muscles. So that's too long a set for them. So I would pick something between 8 to 12, 15 repetition. Now this is not a golden repetition range. You can gain progress in variety of rep ranges, but my personal preference is somewhere between 8 to 12, 15 reps, wherein I can do with control. I can spend 4 to 5 seconds executing a single rep. So if I'm doing 10 repetitions, then that would mean that I would take 40 to 50 seconds to execute one single set. And then I would take a 1 minute rest, 90 seconds rest, and do another set. So start with something as low as 2 sets per movement or 3 sets per movement. That's it. Because you're doing it thrice a week. So even if you do 3 or 2 would be 6 sets of that entire thing over the week. And that's why I prefer doing a full body, because then I can distribute the work throughout the week rather than doing, okay, let's do a chest day and then I have like 20 different exercises or 10 different exercises, or doing 20-40 sets of that exercise on one day. That's because after 10 sets of that muscle group, your muscles are going to feel the fatigue, not able to do. So rather than that, have quality. Okay, 3 quality sets today done for my upper body push, 3 quality sets done for my upper body pull. And then you repeat that. So you got 3 days, 9 sets total. So if you try doing that on one day, it's fine. But again, as a beginner, like I said, and you will only be able to do once a week. You can't repeat it. So you'll have to wait till the next week to repeat that. So again, the skill factor, you will miss out on that. You will not develop that skill very fast. So if you want that, then you distribute it in a way wherein you're doing okay, somewhere between 8 to 15 repetitions. Good. It's not too heavy, not too light. Doing very slowly, controlled. If I play a start and stop game, if I say stop, they should be able to stop there. That's how you know that okay, they have control. If I said stop and they moved, they don't have a control. Control will prevent injuries at this point of time. I'm not even bothered about time and attention and those concepts. What I'm bothered about is my joint health, is the client's joint health. How can they do it? How can they control it? And how can they improve it? So something very slow, less, achieve most out of minimum work, and then progress from there.
Got it. Yep. So we know what exercises to do, and then the session ranges could be like 8 to 15 repetitions, and maybe 2 to 3 sets per exercise, and then and then master those basic movements, like these 6 to 7 basic movements, and keep repeating it. Because I really want to emphasize. You mentioned like light weights, because it's just that whenever we start anything, right, we usually start with out of motivation or willpower, and then we'll usually take extreme approaches, like pick, people call it like ego lifting, like pick pick whatever, like more than what you can, and then try to basically like show off to people. But it's just that we have to be mindful that we are in this for long term journey, and then
Yes.
nobody becomes fit overnight, and also, right? So it's just being like pick any lightweight, and then master these exercises, and then you'll eventually figure out when you see progress. I believe, like, personally, like, progress is addictive. Like, when I see progress, I
Yes.
just want to keep doing. So that's very good, Simon. I think that's so much actionable advice right there. I want to talk about one thing, the common challenge that I get on my Instagram page. It's with respect to time, right? So people say, I don't have time. So now we establish that, okay, we know the why, right? We know what to do, like strength training, and we know what exercises to do, right? And the major challenge when it comes to exercise is basically like, how do you find time? I mean, I get this all the time. So what would you recommend? So you talked about like all or nothing approach in one of your reels, but can you talk about, like, how can people find time to exercise?
Yes. So I would have a lot of clients saying that okay, they don't have time. But
Yep.
we all know that we can always figure out time if it matters to us. That is one.
Yep.
But at the same time, I don't want to be a coach who would say, no, you need to work out 45 minutes a day, 3 days a week. Even that might be difficult for some people because I coach people, I know how busy they are. They don't get that much time either. So even though a lot of coaches might not agree with me on this, that, okay, how is it that someone doesn't have 45 minutes of time 3 days a week? I've seen such cases. I've seen such genuine cases who don't. So I tell them, okay, if you have 10, 15 minutes, start doing that, start utilizing that. So maybe instead of having 3 days of 45 minute session in a week, you do 10 minutes, 6 days a week, because you can do that.
Yep.
10 minutes is very short.
Yep.
Maybe you get just 2, 3 exercises to cater. That's fine. Because when we think about this distribution of work, as in we pick body parts, we distribute it. So maybe we do upper body today, lower body tomorrow, upper body the next day, then lower body, upper body, upper body, lower body, upper body, lower body, upper body, lower body. We pick one exercise from upper body, one exercise from lower body, or 2 exercise from upper body, 2 exercise from lower. I can quickly finish it in 10, 15 minutes, sorted.
Yeah.
I did not do too much, but I did that. And I did that again tomorrow. I did that again day after tomorrow. I just took 10 minutes and kept doing that. And it helps me with multiple things. Now I'm not doing too much load, so I'm not going to get that much sore. Plus, this fits me. I can sneeze in. I can just get this 10 minutes of time. I can squeeze this in very easily, right? And then I'm repeating more frequently. So that is again a benefit. So a lot of people who are extremely busy, I would suggest that, okay, you can't waste time going to the gym, coming back. That takes obviously time. So have some basic setup at home, which you can use on
Mm-hmm.
most days. Get your 10-minute session done, then go to work, because you don't know by the end of the day how you will feel, how busy you come back, how what is your stress level, all of that. So if you get done with it first thing in the morning, then you're sorted. And I'm not saying that everybody needs to do first thing in the morning, but most people who end up getting so busy that by the time they end up returning home, they would say, I don't feel like working out. I have worked out too hard. Mentally, I have worked out so hard to the entire day. So maybe they for them doing it first thing in the morning, 10 minutes, the session is done and you're sorted.
Yep, yep,
So it's all about figuring out what works the best for you, and you plan according to that rather than planning according to someone and then trying to figure out your time. That would not
yeah,
work.
yeah.
Even how many
Yep.
sessions you want to do in a week is dependent upon how much time you have available, rather than a coach giving you a 6-day workout plan that would take 90 minutes and you hardly have 90 minutes in the entire week. That plan is never going to work, even if it is the best plan or the best coach
Yeah,
that has
yeah,
written that
yeah.
plan, right?
Yep, yep, yep.
So you have to see what you can do, what you can sustain, and that's what will then help you program accordingly.
Yeah, yeah, that's powerful in what you just said. Like we totally underestimate the power of these small habits because we are so used to this binary box thinking, right? You know, either I do a 1 hour workout or I don't. Right. I mean, I'm guilty of this as well. Like, you know, when I started my journey, you know, I had this plan of like going to gym for 1 hour. But, you know, after my office, I was like tired. And then I thought, okay, maybe I don't have time for 1 hour, and then I would sit on the couch and then just watch TV, right? I mean, or just, you know, open my phone and then, you know, scroll on social media. It's just that I feel like it's just a shift in the way we think, right? Instead of saying I don't have time, if we reframe that sentence by like how can I make time, which actually changes our mindset a lot, right? Okay, it's okay, like, you know, life gets in the way, like we get busy, but instead of like completely abandoning a 45 minutes workout, we can still, if we still have time, we can still do like 15 minutes, right? I mean, one rule that I follow is like never miss twice. You know, okay, like, you know, if something happens, I have a 15-month-old at my house, and, you know, things happen, right? And then even if I miss one day, I would just, my main goal or main focus for the next day is to come back, right? You know, come back to my exercise, even if it's 15 minutes, that's still okay. Because yeah, it's, we should like switch away from all or nothing to all or something, right? You know, just do something, because what matters the most is the consistency. And then I love what you just said there about like being consistent and, you know, making time for exercise, because we know it's a priority, but we just have to find time, and then we will make it happen. That I think that's very good when it comes to all the concept that we talked about. For a beginner, we talked about, you know, why, what, and how, and also how can we make time. And you know, the what matters most is consistency. I think that's a very actionable advice. So I want to get to the last segment of this podcast, where we talk about, I call them hot seat questions, which I almost always ask my guests. So there are 3 questions. So the first question is with respect to the action. So we spoke about a ton of stuff today, and then I don't want people to get overwhelmed and then, you know, get into this analysis paralysis where they don't take action. So if like, let's say if somebody watched this episode, and what small action that you would recommend people take after listening to this episode?
So the first set of actionable is sit down, write down what is going on in your life right now. What time do you wake up? What time do you sleep? What do you do? What all things do you do? How much time you spend in each thing? Looking at that data will help you plan what is feasible for you at this point of time.
Yeah,
And then
yeah,
you start making plans, rather than you get a plan and then you think, okay, where do I fit this in? This doesn't even fit in my lifestyle.
yep, 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 yep.
So the best thing is understand your own timetable and pick something that is not very difficult or very huge addition to your existing lifestyle. Because with fitness coaches, our life revolves around fitness. The people who are not into core fitness, for them, they need to fit fitness into their lifestyle.
Mm,
It's different. Usually the problem is when people look at transformations, they look at end goals, end results, and they want to achieve that, missing out on the fact that there was a process involved. And that process would vary for each individual. The timeline would vary for each individual. So, first thing is look and understand what your timeline is, what you can manage to do, and then set realistic goals for your end goals. That, okay, this is how my long term goal, and I would break it down into multiple short term goals because I don't have that much time. So I would want to work with as little as possible and take it from there. So it's like one thing that I learned from the habit building stuffs that I have. So one book like Atomic Habit, I was reading that, okay, make it as easy as possible for you to do so that you don't miss out on it. If you make it hard, you are setting yourself up for failure, right? So it's like small actionables, very little effort, but maximum output. Little effort, little effort, little effort has a compounding effect on your overall effort that you're putting in, right? So, like, just like I said, 10 minutes of workout, 10 minutes, 10 minutes, 10 minutes. If you do 66 times a week, that's 60 minutes of total workout. It's still better than doing 0 minutes of work.
That's actionable advice right there. You mentioned atomic habits and you mentioned compounding. So yeah, the whole podcast is named Compounding Project, which means taking small actions consistently will lead to significant results. And I'm a huge fan of compounding. Yeah, my second question is with respect to books. So reading is an integral part of compounding project. And so, what one book would you recommend for somebody who wants to know more about health?
So not directly about health, but this, like I mentioned before, this book called Atomic Habit really helped me understand how do you set habits that you can sustain for long and achieve it, because it taught me that you can't go from this to this completely. You can't jump that much. You have to make sure that you have to keep it very small things. And then the other good thing that I learned from it was the stacking of habits from it. Like, okay, you build one, you add on one thing on top of that. And I actually use it and with my clients that, okay, let's not do everything all at once. Let's start with doing 1,000 more steps today. Let's do this week that we became consistent. Then we add another thing. Then we add about, okay, let's just start reading labels. It's just that when you are struggling to do everything at once and then you find it very overwhelming, it becomes very easy for you to start adding little things. And the moment you start doing those things regularly, that gives you a sense of accomplishment that, hey, I was able to do this. So I feel good. And then I like that. Okay, if you have a to-do list and you have like these things that you did, and then by the end of the day, if you check, it feels really good. You feel happy about it. Okay, this day was not it was very fruitful. It was not as bad as what I thought it was, because that journaling part really helps. Yeah.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, Atomic Habits, I keep talking about this book on my Instagram page, on this podcast. It's a Bible for me. So there are so many actionable advice. So my third question is respect to rapid fire. I'll give you two choices. If you just pick whatever comes to your mind the first time. So morning workout or evening workout?
Morning workout for me.
Dumbbells or barbells?
Dumbbells.
Weight training or walking in nature?
Weight training any day.
Early riser or a night owl?
Early riser.
Last one, vegetarian or non-vegetarian?
Non-vegetarian.
All right. Yeah. With that, Nadir, thanks for your time. It's been a pleasure. I learned a lot about exercise myself, and I hope people find value out of this. So, if people want to know more about you, where can they find you?
They can find me on Instagram. On Instagram, Get Fit with Nadir is my handle. They can reach out to me if they have any questions. I don't mind answering questions for anyone, irrespective whether they are my clients or not. So feel free to DM me if you have any questions around exercise, fitness, nutrition, anything around health and fitness.
Sure. Yeah. Thank you. Thanks again for your time. If you find value out of this episode, please don't forget to subscribe. Until then, trust compounding. Take action now.